You had your BBC stories. I have mine. Back in the 1990s, I was in highest flavour and favour in the old BBC. And in the old BBC, there were extraordinary corners of genuine anarchic freedom. And just so that everybody thinks that doesn't think that I have it in for the BBC, I owe a profound debt to two people. And they were both in the Department of Religious Affairs, which ran The Moral Maze, which is the programme on which I suppose I really made my reputation, in every sense of the word. But it was run by two remarkable people. One was called Ernie Ray, in theory, a strict Northern Irish Presbyterian, actually a profoundly subversive radical. And the other was this extraordinary man, David Coombs, who had gone through about every religion you could think of, from beginning as a Plymouth Brethren at one extreme and dying, being buried as a Roman Catholic on the other. But in and between, this extraordinary anarchic sense and this determination that everything should be sayable. And it was quite wonderful. And I can describe the studio. I was apologising for the noise outside. There was absolutely no noise outside there because we were buried in the vaults. Oh yes, there was an occasional rattle from an underground train. We were buried in the vaults of Broadcasting House. And there was Michael Burke positioned at the head of the table and the rest of us arrayed round. And it was the old traditional studio. There was still the original grand, those wonderful bronze microphones and whatever from the old Broadcasting House hanging around. And there was the great double glazed window behind which there was the producer, the control desk, and all the rest of it. Now, normally, you would have positioned the presenter so he had Michael Burke, so that he had the unique view of the producer. What did David Coombs do? He positioned Michael so he had an oblique view. And he could catch, David, the producer, could catch my eye. So when I was misbehaving and, uttering the absolutely unmentionable, Michael was going, "Oh, David, now really, that's going too far." Do you know what the producer, this sacred representative of the BBC, was doing? David Coombs, mouthing vigorously, "Get the fucker, get the fucker." Now, that was the old BBC. There were those edges of genuine creativity, of extraordinary anarchism, of everything must be said and everything must be sayable. But that's gone. Totally, totally gone. Which is why, even though one sheds the occasional tear for it, Andrew, I don't shed buckets. Do you?
It's not a wholly organized, or it doesn't have to be there. It does some good stuff. I mean, there was a tweet from David Baddiel that I think I replied to. He said, people need to remember it's not just news that the BBC does. And I said, unfortunately, this ideology has burrowed its way into every aspect
Look at
of
Doctor
the BBC.
Who. Look at the rubbish of Doctor Who.
So it's unfortunately happened. It's part of what made me say, everyone watching this now will have their own kind of story of when they realized they fell out of love with it or when it seemed not right to them anymore. And for me, I left England for about 12 years. I was living in Argentina, Colombia, and then Germany and France for a few years as well. So you while the Overton window moves with the BBC, I was off in another place. So to come back here with my Argentinian wife, who has a whole different set of morals and understandings and things, we then turn Have I Got News for You on, or these kinds of things on the BBC, and we were just flabbergasted. We came back to a country that could no longer identify who was a man and who was a woman. I don't think people fully realise, because
Argentina
we were living through it.
confuse. Argentina tends not to confuse these categories, I think.
No, and look, they have other issues, because they've got real issues. They've got utter. I mean, we talk about there are problems here, but over there are people who are starving. It's a real problem. So they're not sitting there going, "I've had a microaggression," and it does feed into a feeling I sometimes have. And I know it makes me sound like, I suppose, a bit. Well, maybe it's an old-fashioned thing to say, but these people who growing up in this country need a war, or they need. I don't actually want them to have to go through a war, but they need something to show them that life is supposed to be a little bit tough. Like, at least sometimes you need to.
They need a slap in the face, Andrew, with reality. That's what it demands. The world, the world, I'm afraid, as Margaret Thatcher was always very fond of saying, was a conservative place, hard reality. But the Conservative Party forgot this as well. And not only the BBC is going to have to learn it, I think, all our political parties are going to have to. And what I'm hoping is, after the terrible failures of the Uniparty, who again have mismanaged, again, both the Conservatives and Labour, as we can see, have shockingly mismanaged the BBC insofar as there is an oversight role along with everything else. But I think we leave it there. As I said, once upon a time, I grew up with it. I would have shed tears. I believe in the importance of institutions. I believe in great buildings. And the great building of the BBC in Langham Place is one of the monuments of the first half of the 20th century, of that extraordinary consensual broad culture that was created in Britain in the first half of the 20th century. But it's now a shell. It's empty, I think, largely of what made it matter.